Hi, everybody, and welcome to the third and final session of the Youth IGF-USA. We are really excited to end this wonderful day of conversations with a discussion by and for young internet governance practitioners. We've collected the best of the best in the internet governance community from different leadership organizations. These are Ellen from the Internet Law and Policy Foundry, João from the ISOC Youth Special Interest Group, and Nicolas from the Youth Coalition on Internet Governance. In this session, we will learn about their journeys in the field and what opportunities are open for newcomers and youth. Without further ado, let's start our questions. So for Ellen, I'll go to you first. What was your first experience in internet governance circles? And then what motivated you to stay involved after that?
So my first experience with internet government law circles was through a legal fellowship program at the Wikimedia Foundation. So by way of background, I was a newly admitted Australian attorney who just moved to the US and lost all credentials all of a sudden. I'd come from a completely different area of law, personal injury mainly. And what I liked about the Wikimedia Foundation, what it offered me at the time was the opportunity to help people. I really like the nonprofit angle. So that's how it started. And I've done a couple of other things since before coming back to the Wikimedia Foundation, which I work for today, in addition to working at the Internet Law Policy and Foundry. And what motivated me to stay? I think it's twofold. One, I really like being part of a mission that is meaningful to me. I understand that a world that is working towards free and open knowledge wasn't something I would have thought of back when I was in Australia. But once I got to know more about the mission and living in Silicon Valley, all the exposure I have to tech, it made me realize how important this is and how intrinsic it is to everything that I do and all these things I take for granted. So that's one, the mission. And second thing I would say is the people that I've met along the way, just the teams that I've worked with, my colleagues, people I've volunteered with. It's really exciting to work together with people who are passionate about what they do. And I don't know if it's just this space or if I've just been lucky, but that has been my experience so far.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellen. And João?
Thank you, Jeremy. Well, since I was a kid, I enjoy computers, really like computers and doing stuff in them. And I also care about how we can continue to have this joyful relation with the technology. So I definitely decided to act in protection of digital rights. So when I discovered that we could do things to really and effectively improve our life in the digital world, I took this opportunity. So the first time I heard about the internet governance, it was in 2017. And at the same year, I went to the Brazilian IGF, the global IGF, and I started to get involved with all of the organizations, trying to seek for ways of really doing what I envision to the world. So I decided to keep doing it, and I came to the youth standing group, invited. They knew I always were searching and helping to improve everything. So it was a really pleasure to me to be here, and it's very meaningful to represent the youth standing group right now. So yeah, I think this is the first time this is the first time I am representing the group.
Awesome. Thank you so much, João. And Nicolas, what was your first experience in internet governance?
Thanks, all. Nicolas Fiumarelli here. Well, I always started at university because I studied computer engineering in the University of the Republic here in Uruguay. And then I started to get involved in the world of the internet and the global identifiers because my first job was at LACNIC. In 2012 was the year I started to work at LACNIC as a software analyst. LACNIC, for those who didn't know, is the regional registry for the IP addresses. This is the internet protocol addresses we all use for connecting to the internet. LACNIC is the regional registry for the Latin America and the Caribbean region. I started as a software analyst, as I said. Then I joined the Internet Society as a national chapter member, the Uruguayan ISOC chapter, and then started to participate at some chapter meetings. Then at that time, really, I did not understand how much how the internet worked, right? How the technicalities of the internet are. Because I only had like the basic knowledge that I acquired at the university in the networks subject, but was not minor, but insufficient, right, to understand all the issues around public policies in the internet. So then at the university, they didn't explain me that, for example, one of those larger regional internet service providers, in this case, LACNIC, was right in the city where I lived, right? So in my second year at LACNIC, I applied for the Internet Society Fellowship to go to the IETF. So that was my first experience, the IETF. I don't know if all knows about the IETF. The IETF is the Internet Engineering Task Force. It's a group of people, basically, that do these processes of the internet protocols. All the internet protocols were created there at the IETF. HTTP, TCP/IP, for example, for the email, SMTP, all the DNS, BGP, the different protocols that we all use to connect ourselves. The IETF meeting has 3 annual events. So that was my first experience and also the IETF is the oldest bottom-up and multi-stakeholder mechanism in the history of the internet ecosystem. So there was my first experiences in this thing, right? In these processes that are bottom-up and multi-stakeholder sense. Then I continue talking a little more about my history until I meet IGF, right? But let's others to talk a little.
Thank you so much, Nicolas. That was very interesting, and I'm glad that you brought in some elements of how the global system works with LACNIC and other RRIs, because obviously that's a big part of the whole Internet Governance Foundation. Well, I'll move on. So I'm going to go back to Ellen here. So in your current work, I know you had mentioned that you're working at the Wikimedia Foundation. How does that interact or interface with internet governance? Is that part of the ecosystem? Is that a stakeholder group? And what value does knowing about how the broader internet works in this kind of technical way inform how the decisions at work you make are done?
Yeah, thank you for asking this question. I will admit, unlike my fellow panelists, I do not have a rich history of being involved in the Internet Governance Forum specifically. My first exposure is actually this panel. So, but in saying that, Internet governance is very much related to what the Wikimedia Foundation does. You may know us most as hosting Wikipedia, one of the world's most popular websites. And it is our mission to have that website free and available in every language for everyone. We want everyone to be able to learn freely. And I think that, like, as an internet player, as a stakeholder, say, sometimes we're treated a bit like big tech because we are so popular, but we are actually a nonprofit. And I will also say that, like, I don't speak on behalf of the Wikimedia Foundation in this context. This is just me explaining generalities. But because how regulators sometimes treat us, it becomes incumbent on us to raise our voice and remind them of the product that we offer, the way that we work with community governance, for example, our volunteer system. They completely run Wikipedia. They're the ones who edit, they're the ones who write. We just manage, like, you know, the house in which everything lives, and they're the ones going in and out, doing everything. And some regulators are not like aware of that when they try to legislate laws that are very strict or demanding or onerous on organizations such as us. And at the same time, we have our mission to make this content freely available. So we don't want to be stymied in this task. And so I would say that, like, being online, how the internet is being governed throughout the world, like not just in the US, is really important to the work that I do daily. And we try to keep abreast of like what is happening throughout the world. I mean, right now, I think was mentioned, or maybe it was in the last session, I can't remember, but the new US privacy bill was mentioned, and that's making some waves, you know, in this community. But at the same time, like we reeled from the GDPR in 2018, and a lot of other jurisdictions have legislated similar laws, similar privacy laws that all impact this ecosystem, which is very, I mean, it's a bit fragile, really, especially a model like ours, which depends on the goodwill and volunteer efforts of humanity. So those are my thoughts so far.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ellen. And I really appreciate that answer. So on to João. Can you talk a little bit about what your current work is like and how that interfaces with internet governance bodies or work itself?
Yeah, sure. As the Youth SG Vice Chair, we are actually totally linked to the internet governance because we were first created at a regional IGF event here in Latin America. So the whole idea was how we can develop the participation of the youth in the internet governance spaces. So it started a while ago, like, I'm trying to remember, but I think it was in 2015. And since then, it was aggregated to the Internet Society, and now we are a global organization. So we have 1,500 members across all over the globe, and we do some projects focused on improving the participation of young people. And well, in I don't know, do you think that you would like to know more about the specific projects? What do you think?
Sure, go for it, João.
Okay. Well, we wrote our annual plan a while ago, and we have mainly we envision that we have mostly 3 areas of activities. We need to improve the participation of youth on policy making, because we noticed that during the policy making, we still lack representation. We also have a strong project to try to map all the youth initiatives, because we have a lot of people that needs the support and the projection of their great work they are already doing. It can be in chapters of Internet Society and outside of it too. And we also try to search for people that are doing great jobs, like Alan, that it's not, that is inside the Wikimedia, it's doing a great job. So we should show that, and show that people and that youth is producing interesting outcomes. So about this specific topic, like we have the Youth Atlas project. It was organized 2 years ago, and we published a book about all the youth. We gathered information and the experiences of them, and published a face to all the work. And now we are planning to do another edition this year. So we will collect in the next months the information. So please feel free to share your project, because we will try to launch it in the next year's IGF, the homework. We have also the Mapping Youth Initiatives project. We have another project inside of the African continent, searching for regulations that can threaten digital rights. So this is the kind of work we are doing right now, and I invite all of you to work with us.
Awesome, thank you, João. And Nicolas, so back to the question, what in your current professional career, do you still interface with internet governance institutions or bodies? And what value does your prior work in the field bring to that?
Yes, I will talk a little about my own perspective, like my personal history in the internet governance, connecting with these things, and we will end with explaining these acronyms, because, well, in 2014 was where I had the opportunity to participate in my first LAC-IGF. LAC-IGF is the regional IGF for the American and Caribbean region. This regional internet governance forum was the place where I learned really about this bottom-up and multi-stakeholder nature, because this was the actual environment where it's a non-binding space, right? It means that all the conclusions and all the things that are discussed at these meetings, the internet governance forums, are not binded with law, right? It's like all the things said works as recommendations. That is a very good thing, because it's a natural space where people could discuss about the hot topics. Well, that was my first approximation, or my second one after the IETF, the IGF, with public policies, right? I was very surprised because I participated in this LAC-IGF in 2016. I was surprised because I attended the youth LAC-IGF. Was the first meeting of the youth being involved in internet governance for the Latin American Caribbean region. And I was really surprised about these great disparities, right, that existed between the countries in my region. There were different things, like, for example, some lawyers were talking about the routing on the internet in terms of countries and frontiers, like, but you know, the nature of the internet is not a cross-border thing. It's multinational. So then another lurid things, like many conversations about blocking different services or blocking specific content, but the nature of the content is the nature of the internet is decentralized, so you cannot do that. So all these things were noisy things in my head that I wanted to continue developing on this knowledge to afford. So then I started to participate more at the local, right, at the national IGF, with my local issues here. That was where I get involved in some activities. For example, developing myself in cybersecurity skills. I began to have more interest, for example, in generating impact in debates about privacy, right? When the GDPR happened, and all the world was surprised about Snowden revelations, And we all know maybe we are at a risk. We were at a risk at the moment. So cybersecurity issues and other, for example, routing security issues were the ones that I got more interested to start to participate. And then was some concepts that I learned in those conferences. And then I liked the dynamics that was generated at these youth LAC-IGF meetings. Some things that for example, I realized that I have a lot to contribute in terms of technical issues or technical concepts to the ones that are newcomers to this field. Also to the lawyers that were already in the field, because I recognize they have, for example, some lacks about we're talking about technical things or how the internet works. So the next year, 2016, I created my national youth initiative that is called Youth IGF Uruguay. We have a lot of courses and annual meetings trying to encourage new people, new young people in our country to get involved into this internet governance processes and to let them know that they are part of this bottom-up chain, right? We all the people in the world are part of the bottom-up structure of the Internet Governance Forum, and that is crucial because we need to tell them that there are a lot of a few opportunities that they could apply to travel, to participate at different symposiums from all sectors, right? So in 2016, I participated in the Global IGF, where I found that getting involved with the youth organizations, and in particular the Youth Observatory, that today is called the Youth Standing Group, as João mentioned, was something very interesting because this group started in Latin America and Caribbean, and then it became a global one. And a lot of things that I learned were about the culture of these groups, right? Because we saw a lot of interesting voluntary synergies that were happening there. I will talk a little about that in a minute, but I continue to participate and increasingly actively in this ecosystem, in these different non-binding spaces, right? And then in 2019, I was awarded with the Youth Ambassadors Program. Maybe the others can also talk a little more about that in a moment, but the Youth IGF Ambassador Program is from the Internet Society. It's a program that encourages all young people between 18 and 30 years old to participate physically at the Internet Governance Forum with a huge program of activities that you need to learn a lot. It was one of the best experiences in my life, I need to tell that, since this program includes a competition where they select the best 30 among 150 pre-selected people. And it's a very time-consuming program, but it works really, because it includes a course about internet governance generalities that are inherited from the ISOC courses. Then you have to make a lot of meaningful comments and really do research and work very hard on the topics in order to get selected, right? And it's a fascinating experience because one of the most important things to highlight is the opportunity to networking, right, with other colleagues. We have seen that a lot of colleagues were going through the same processes and the learning as one as who have very interesting projects and initiatives. So it's really at this point that I want to stop because if not, I will go a lot. But yes, this broad group of people could be called youth community, youth observatory, or simply the youth. They are the ones that have valuable bonds of friendship right now, because this voluntary spirit, right, of the organization, but really there is no funding at all, for example, at some of those processes. And it was like, I always remember these synergies, right, this motivation to create these cross-continental youth initiatives and to contact people from the different initiatives and try to collaborate on matters. So there were a lot of cases like the West African Youth IGF collaborating with the Youth LAC-IGF in a cross-continental experience where different cultures arrive. So there are a lot of things that happen when you have resources, when you have people that is connected and have similarities, but a lot of differences. So at those groups is where all these synergies happen. And well, I will talk a little more about that in a while if you have me.
Great. Thank you so much, Nicolas. That was really, really interesting. And thank you guys for the very broad perspective and history. I want to focus this one on Ellen here. In our last panel, we had a few people talking about the Foundry, and I know that you're a representative of them. Could you tell us a little bit more about the work of the Foundry and how somebody maybe on the less technical side can get involved in internet policy work?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. We are like on the same wavelength. I even have the link to connect to the Foundry locked and loaded, ready to go.
Perfect.
So the Foundry, short for Internet Law and Policy Foundry, it's a group for people who are young professionals. So students of any kind in policy or engineering or security or law who are interested in Internet law and policy. And it's a great place to get together in order to work on like advocating in that space. Now, the angle we take is like unique to whatever you want to argue. But I would say that we're pretty sympathetic to civil society, being kind of part of that group ourselves. I would also say that we have a series of like so the fellow Foundry class was just chosen for 2022 to 2024. But we're running a lot of like events and we're hosting a lot of podcasts and other things that you can get involved in and listen to stay in touch. And if you subscribe to the mailing list, you will get all the information. I'll also find the podcast link later on because that happens every week or 2 weeks. A new topic, we go dive deep with someone, an expert in their field. I think one of the recent ones, for example, was about the Roe v. Wade being overturned in the US and what that means. And someone from the Foundry was able to interview someone from the EFF, someone who'd worked in this field for a really long time. And one of the first things she said in the podcast was, "I saw this coming." And I was like, "I didn't see this coming. How did you see this coming?" Well, that's because she's an expert in this field. And it's a great opportunity to connect and work with people because like internet governance is so broad. Like you could be interested in one very narrow aspect of it. You could be interested in all of it. You know, you could bring particular skills to the table, like engineering or law, like whatever you can bring to the table, there's like room for you. And there are people who are also interested in what you're interested in. So, thank you, Mary. Mary helped be part of the podcast too. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ellen. And we really appreciate that. So for João and Nicolas, you guys seem to represent a lot of what's happening on the global level and in the South and Latin American regions at large. There seems to be a lot of kind of youth IGF initiatives. Do you find that they overlap or that they could do better working together? Do you see this as something that needs to be talked about, finding ways to kind of better synergize everybody? I'd love to know your thoughts. João, do you want to start on that?
Well, I don't think they overlap actually, because when we go to an internet governance event like global or a regional one, we clearly see that the youth that are in the event came because of the programs. And this is very clear. And the most, the greatest part of these projects is that when you see people there are like younger, but not in the youth movement anymore, normally they came the first time because of a youth program. So we see that these youth programs are actually bringing people there, and these people, at least part of them, are continuing. So definitely, I think it is. We have wonderful programs and initiatives, and we see that we need this kind of help.
Thank you, João. And Nicolas, any thoughts on this?
Yes, I really agree with João. For example, in 2019, I got the IGF Youth Ambassadors Fellowship. But then in 2020, I was a mentor in the same program. And something that I saw was that all the fellows in my year's fellowship in the IGF Youth Ambassadors maintained to participate at the Internet Governance Forum at some manner. They started to be part of some stakeholder group. Like, for example, some of them have arrived into ICANN. Some of them have been an ISOC chapter in their own national country chapter. They started to be, for example, working at some of the civil societies there and the IGF. So we all see that all the people that participated in this program and experienced this fascinating time in the program, they continue to be at the Internet Governance Forum, participating from different sectors, as I say. But that is something that happens, right? The fellows themselves become the next mentors in the same program, and that replication or to educate the educator thing is something incredible, I think. For example, I could tell that in 2021, when I participated in the Katowice Global IGF, I was my first time, for example, that I submitted workshop proposals. And that was another way to be more engaged, right? We started to be more engaged with the high-level speakers in the IGF year to year. So something that changed, right? Because at the beginning, where we were youth, we were inexperienced people, but with a learning process. And then from year to year, Internet governance was evolving, and we were part of that evolution. And at the end, we finished being seniors, or how to say, people that are not maybe more youth, but are participating in another sense. Like we are more, for example, attaining with the hot topics, with the different public policies. We from the young perspective, we see that, for example, things are unfair, and that is what motivates us to continue in this evolving ecosystem. There are opportunities for everyone. Internet governance is built by all of us. The Youth Coalition Internet Governance, where I am part of this year, is a group of people whose mission is to accelerate or to include and engage all these youth initiatives. And I think that there are a good synergies happening. For example, we maintain bi-weekly newsletters to the members that we send to various mailing lists and from different social media with all the events, all the fellowships, all the opportunities, and even shops in the organizations of the internet ecosystem. And that is, I think, something to highlight. Another thing to highlight in the sense of these youth initiatives getting connected is the group of the national and regional initiatives. Like there is something called the NRIs, and one portion of the NRIs are the national and regional initiatives. These are all the national and regional internet governance forum there, but also a portion of that is the youth IGF initiatives that can also be local or can be regional, right? So something to highlight is this, that there are a lot of evolving and new youth IGFs happening, like the USA, that we are very proud that you guys did this a reality. But there are a lot of these moments happening. And also in the level of the sub-regional, we have seen that, for example, we have West African Internet Governance Forum, West African Youth IGF, Central Africa, North Africa, South Africa. So we have a lot of different opportunities to create this kind of initiatives. And the most of these initiatives we could have, and they can exist, the most the connections we could create between them. And I think that is the most important part, because something that the statistics says, and we can prove it, is that the young people are the most active users on the internet, right? Or in other words, the internet is used to a greater extent by young people than by other groups. So therefore, the young people are the ones who can have a better vision for the future of the internet, the current problems and the possible solutions. We have seen that in the different forums, like the E2 Generation Connect. Well, there are an enormous kind of internet governance micro ecosystems happening at the same time. And I think that that the way that the IGF is evolving is in the right direction. I think that in the future there will exist more opportunity of funding for this kind of initiatives that in the past was a lack really. If we can say transparently that, for example, the Youth Observatory, the Youth Standing Group, didn't receive fundings at all in the last years, only by a few of organizations. But that is something that need to change, right? This year, I am the chair for Latin American Caribbean in the Youth Coalition on Internet Governance. It's a global youth group that I explained a little bit, that send these bi-weekly meetings. We organize webinars, and this year, as the last 2 years, we maintained a joint effort with the Youth Standing Group in creating a call for workshop proposals. You know that the call for workshop proposals for the global IGF happen every year, and is open until the 31st of August. For all young person interested here. It's a travel call that you can apply, and the United Nations bring a lot of people. I think that was 100 people by this fellowship to the Internet Governance Forum. It's a good way for the newcomers really to start engaging in this ecosystem. Something to highlight is that, yes, the Youth Standing Group, in a joint with the Youth Coalition, from the last 2 years, we created the internal call for workshop proposals for youth sessions, right? In the last year, we had 7 sessions selected from young people that were organizers of these sessions. We talked, for example, last year we talked about IoT security and artificial intelligence misuse. Another talk was about the digital cooperation, this hot topic, right? The digital cooperation and the multi-stakeholder level body, and the inclusion of youth as a stakeholder in a seat in the leadership group. So all these things that are evolving from year to year. Also, the youth are considered as a stakeholder. Also, instead of the sector they already are part, they because of them being a youth, they have a different voice, because, as we said, the youth are the most that uses the internet. Yes, I will continue talking a lot, but yes, let's please go to.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nicolas, and thank you for your passionate words about that. My next question is actually from the audience, and I think it's broad enough for everybody to respond here, because I think it actually involves a lot of issues beyond just internet governance, but really political involvement for youth. So Pilar Rodriguez wrote from the Spanish IGF, in most forums, the IGF, Eurodig, etc., we agree that youth need more representation. However, there are very few young people that are asked to join panels and share their views. How are we working on this issue for young people, but yet treat it separate as a stakeholder group and have our discussion separate like today? And I want to expand on that because I think that's a good point, Pilar. In your view, Ellen and João and Nicolas, how can we keep other groups accountable to young voices? We find that in a lot of political discussions or policy work, we are just a marginal outside voice in issues that largely affect us the most proportionately. And what can we do to make our voices more effective, either in internet governance or more broadly in these spaces where big policy choices are being made? Ellen, can we start with you?
Sure. This is such a deep question. It's not one that I've turned my mind to previously, so this answer will be off the cuff. I guess I will let my fellow panel speakers speak to the innate of the workings of the IGF and how that works. But I think how you can be involved personally, just as an individual in this movement. I think one of the things you have to do is be involved politically. If you're over 18, I know we were talking about youth, but unfortunately you generally have to be over 18 to vote in most countries, then that already gives you a say. And you can be kind of strategic with your votes and your fundraising. Some people think that my vote doesn't matter. I'm just one person. My elector always wins or whatever. But in places where democracy is strong and you kind of help democracy to be stronger by voting, what you say can really influence it. It's the way to go. And then other than that, like besides your civil duty to vote and your public duty, to be involved personally, I think staying in the loop with organizations such as these and the ILPF and I mean, even the Wikimedia Foundation, EFF, like there's so many organizations out there who make it their mission to try and keep the internet open and accessible and free. And so like, I think gaining knowledge is another first step. If we're talking about first steps, you need to know what's going on so you can know what to advocate for. And like, why reinvent the wheel? Go deep in Wikipedia and learn everything. Like people it's their job to summarize it and explain it and advocate it. You can just learn what they do and jump on. They tell you the most effective way to do this is to sign a poll. Like you sign that poll. They tell you that this thing is happening in a country and it's horrifying. Then you go and you listen to that and you try and advocate as they direct. I believe that there's also a pretty active Twitter space in this. I'm not super active on Twitter myself, but I think that's an easy way, that like a free way to keep involved, to keep updated, to become educated. Yeah.
That was beautiful, Ellen. Thank you so much. João and then Nicolas. João, what do you think is a way maybe in the internet governance world that we can more concretely hold groups that are like the multi-stakeholder bodies or others more accountable to the youth perspective?
Thank you for the question. Well, we have actually, this is a pretty tough difficulty that we have now, but we are trying to address it. Like we broke the first barrier, that is access. Like we are at the same space, but now we are not being heard. But well, we are at the same space, so there's an advancement. Like one of the craziest events that happened in the IGF the first IGF I went, like we were taking pictures and we asked someone that was passing by to take for us. And well, after the picture, we started to talk with this person and talk about some subjects. At the end, like someone asked, like, "Oh, okay, so yeah, who are you?" And that person was the ambassador of Japan. So this is very crazy, and to me, it was like unimaginable that we could have this kind of access to a person that really do things. Like they have power to work in a lot of things that we as an individual can't. So we are now at that space. And the first idea I got like last year was, well, we are at that space and we are having sessions accepted. Like last year it was 7. This year we have actually more. I don't have the number, the exact number, but well, we will speak. So how can we connect what we are speaking to people? And I think we need to reach that people. Like when you go to an event like that, it's very, very important that you look up the participants and know what are they, what they're interested in talking, and seek these access that we have now. I totally agree about like everything that Alan said, so I'm trying to complement. And yeah, this this space that the internet governance provides us is very, very interesting, because we have all kinds of backgrounds there, and we need to take advantage of being at that space. That yeah, I think that's what I can add.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. I totally agree with both of you and Ellen. So for Nicolas, just to recap for any new guests, what do you think is a appropriate or effective way to hold accountable a lot of these governing bodies to youth voices and youth participation and youth policy choices? Are we doing enough to get beyond just the access point? Are we doing things that get us outcomes that we actually desire?
Exactly. Well, what I have seen in the last years is an evolving of these processes within the youth participating, because in the past there were sessions with the youth, talking with youth about the different initiatives, the different things, but a lot of people outside the youth group thought that the youth are like there for improving their digital skills, improving their digital literacy. But that was not the case. These youth were already they had a lot of knowledge and solutions for some of the hot topic issues in the internet governance field, in the public policies field. But what we have seen in the past is, like, with these global youth summits happening from 2019 to now, we have seen that this inclusion of more parliamentary roundtables, for example, in these youth meetings when governmental representatives were there to hear us, I think that was in some manner positive. But we still, and it's a general problem of the IGF, that maybe they see the youth as an underrepresented stakeholder, but now the youth are being more involved in the sessions. For example, in the past, I have seen a lot of sessions with youth to youth, as I said, but now we are having conversations with high-level seniors, stakeholders in the table. Like, for example, this year, we have a session with Being Served to talk about the future of the networks. This inclusion of talks with other people is that was missing, right? But yes, there is a lack of believing that the youth can change the world or something. And I think that the most we can do about it, that, for example, this year there is a youth workshop. There are 4 workshops happening. It's a youth track that is happening in quasi all of the regional internet governance forums, where we are having a conversation with different stakeholders about, for example, digital transformation, about access, and all the things emerge from the youth. And it's a conversation with the other stakeholders. So I think this evolving, or the natural evolving of the IGF, also with more profound or meaningful outputs from the sessions, because we are seeing now that we have a lot of new youth national IGFs, and then we have youth regional IGFs, and then we have some global groups of the youth. So these messages need to be like input, right? From the national IGFs, you have like an outcome, and this outcome need to enter in the regional, and this happen the same with the global. And this thing is that I think will change the perspective that the other stakeholders have for the youth. I definitely think that the youth that I met in the different programs are very capable of developing a lot of interesting public policies. But sometimes it happened, and it's the crucial thing here, that they are not being considered, right? Also, if you talk about national frameworks, these open government national processes happening in a lot of countries in the world, they also did have account the youth voices, but they need to know that the youth are more expert than they think, and they have the solutions. The rest of the stakeholders are not sure about that, but maybe we are sure about that. That is what I wanted to say. That in the natural evolving of the IGF, there will be moments when they must hear the youth, because there are things that are being considered right now that are crucial to the development of the world, really, to encompass all the public policies, to replication things. So all these things happen because of the natural space of the youth that are innovators, right? Like natural innovators. So yes, I think that this is changing, and the perspective of the youth is changing also.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nicolas. And thank you for that perspective. I think that was a really helpful endpoint. We do have 10 minutes left, everybody, so I'll be asking one more question. Please feel free to keep this one brief so that we can wrap up right after this. To Ellen, what current issue, just one, I know it's gonna be tough, do you think youth face most intensely on the internet that you wanna be working on and working towards bettering?
One youth issue. Okay, for me, speaking personally, trust and safety online. Like, youth are so online and they're exposed in ways that adults find about only after the damage is done. How can we better protect our youth who, like, so that these services, which are supposed to be assets for us, like, remain assets? I'm particularly thinking about like social media, you know. I don't work in that field, but you know, I see a lot of criticism of it, and as a supposed big platform, sometimes we get scooped under the same like magic paintbrush that they're trying to fix social media with. So it's interesting, but like for youth, 100%, that's a concern, I think.
Great, thank you so much. And João, what issue do you think that youth face most intensely today on the internet?
Well, I definitely would choose privacy, because, well, this is the enabler for a lot of other rights, and having a computer inside your pocket all day really threatens this right. Yes, that's it.
Wonderful, thank you. And Nicolas, what issue would you choose?
Well, I think that the freedom of expression and disinformation online is something that the youth are very disadvantaged, because different groups, different gender, different, so all these affects. But another thing that is highlighting, or I have seen a lot from the youth talking about that, is cybersecurity, or will be mentioned as privacy, because it's naturally like the privacy violations. And then, yes, something that I started to see a lot is youth participation in the terms of artificial intelligence, and also on advanced technologies such as quantum communications. You know, quantum computing is not the same as quantum communications. That is a new technology that will serve the internet for everybody. So I think that is something that will be that is already of interest of the youth.
Wonderful, thank you so much, Nicolas. Well, thank you, everybody. That officially concludes session 3 for the speakers. I just wanted to thank Ellen, João, and Nicolas for your time. You guys were all fantastic, and I think you gave a really beautiful and broad overview of all of the issues facing the youth, but also all the organizations that are able to be involved with that could start to tackle those head on. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. And it's great to be at the US Youth IGF. It's very important to us.
Wonderful. And with all that being said, I want to thank everyone on behalf of the organizers of the inaugural Youth IGF-USA. Thank you guys so much for helping us put this together. We're really excited to bring this to the youth ecosystem in the US, and we would love to be able to do this in the future. Does Mary or McKenna, do you want to say anything before we wrap this up officially?
No, just want to join in thanking the panelists for this session and for previous sessions, and also remember that IGF-USA is taking place tomorrow. If you are in the DC area, you may join in person. Otherwise, if you are not, like myself, then you can join remotely. And as the speakers from the previous panel highlighted, there are a lot of interesting sessions on a lot of the issues that our speakers on this panel also highlighted. So hope to see you there.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. We hope to see you at the IGF-USA tomorrow, and be safe.
Bye bye. Thank you so much.